everybody. Happy holidays to you. Today, I thought before I take all my neighbor gifts around on my street, I thought I would make a little video to show you kind of how I did it. Neighbor gifts can get real expensive real fast, and I don't really have a Christmas budget. I sort of, theoretically kind of celebrate Christmas, but I don't have kind of family, and I don't have friends nearby or anything. So, if I haven't really gotten to do any gifting in several years financially. This year I have both time and energy and enough money to do a little something. So I'm going to show you kind of what I did, and you can take from it what might be good tips for you and just kind of leave the rest. One tip, I bought about 3 cases, maybe 4, about 4 cases of persimmons about a month ago, because they come in only in kind of late November to kind of most of December. You can only get them 3 or 4 weeks out of the year. But they all come in wrong. They don't come in ripe. So they come in real hard, and you've probably felt them before. If you know what a persimmon looks like, it can look like this. Except when it's not ripe yet, it keeps just this orange part on it. When it ripens, it looks more like this. And there's 2 different kinds. So there's this kind, and then there's the kind that looks a little more squat. And either way is fine. They both taste the same as far as I can tell, but they both come real hard. And if you bite into them at the beginning, it's real tannic, it's real sour, it'll really pucker your lip, and kind of burn it a little bit. But once it's ripe, it can't really travel well, because if I opened this up, it would just would go everywhere. That's when it's ripe. And it's a gorgeous flavor. It's almost like a honey flavor. It's very sweet, but it's just delicious. And most people have never had it, even in places where these are grown, because restaurants will take and put these on salads or something when they're sliceable, but that's not when they're ripe. They're ripe now. So to get them ripe, you have to order them. You have to just get a bunch of them and just leave them out for a while. So I got 4 cases of them, thankfully, right before they went to $3 a piece. They were a little less than $3 a pound when I bought them. So I won on that. So I was thinking about giving these if my body didn't need all those persimmons. As it happens, I'm eating persimmons pretty slowly this year. Sometimes I eat them really fast and I can just eat everything in sight. I'm not doing that this year. My body hasn't needed them as much. So I thought, well, maybe I'll give these away. So I wanted to offer that as one option. If you get them first thing in the season, they'll be cheaper. As they were with me. They were easily half the price that they are now. But they're just beautiful, and people don't buy them. And if people have had them, they mostly haven't had them where they're ripe and awesome. So, and they're full yield. All you take off when you eat them, you just pull off this stem. Everything else is edible. There's no waste. So you can just put them in a compostable plastic cup like this. They do need some structure around them because they're like smashy soft. So you don't want to like give them to somebody not in a jar or something. But this is a good way to do it. Since mason jars have become very expensive and hard to find, you may not want to give one away in a mason jar, unless you know that you're giving it to someone who would really treasure that mason jar and can't find mason jars. If you want to do that, which is lovely of you to think of, then put them in an 8-ounce squat mason jar, like a little cup. It's about 4 inches across, 3 or 4 inches across, about 3 inches high. This is a good thing to go in a mason jar. It makes a lovely gift, and you can just tie it up with twine. I keep this twine. You get this at the hardware store or wherever. Don't buy little bitty bits of twine because you're going to waste your money. This is like almost no money, but will last me for stinking ever. And last year, I just did a bunch of these dried lemon rinds smashed up in my food processor and my grinder, and then and bay leaves smashed up together. Made a really lovely lemon bay seasoning. There's no gluten in it. There's no sugar in it. There's no salt in it. It works for everybody. If people love meat, this goes great on meat. If people are vegan, This goes great on all kinds of stuff. You can use this on anything. You can use it on raw stuff. You can use it on cooked stuff. So for any dietary need, this is excellent. And I just put a little bow on it, labeled it, and then put it by the door. And I took some around, but then if somebody came by who, I wanted to show some appreciation for, I would give them one, and they really loved it. So that's a way you can tie up 4 little mason jars that, cost more or less nothing. But what I've ended up doing, rather than the persimmons, is I noticed that I had a lot of cooking that I had done last year that's been in the freezer, that I jarred up nice, that's been stored nice, that, I haven't been in and out of those freezers much. And so they're taking up space, but they're really nice food. But I'm noticing that I'm not eating those things necessarily. So I had some collard greens that were, cooked and stewed, but they were vegan. They didn't have any meat in them, so they could go with anybody. They didn't have salt in them, so they can go with anybody, and then people can season them how they like them. But there was good pot liquor in them, the juice a little bit. And then what else did I have? I had some fig and apricot spreads and fig and currant spreads from last year that I made, that I was putting into almond flour cookies, kind of make some fig Newtons. They had a beautiful flavor like a mincemeat would have. And so a really nice holiday kind of flavor. So they're very tasty, and they're shelf stable. Frankly, those ones, the collard greens obviously have to stay in the freezer till you're ready for them, but the fig and currant spreads are good out. They didn't have enough water in them to be a problem to be out. So I did keep some of them out through the year, and I ate through those. But these other ones have been in the freezer. They're fresh as a daisy. They're just taking up space though. So, when you're thinking about neighbor gifts, that's my next, main tip is look around, see what's taking up space in your house and that could be gifted. And because then what you do once you start making neighbor gifts, you think of a few people and then you end up with something like this. This is my map of my block and the little block over. And all of a sudden you got 20 people to freaking gift for. But the good news to that is that I don't know most of these people yet, which is not cool, right? Like I've lived here for a year. I am disabled. I can't get out a lot and I can't be around other people's Wi-Fi a lot. So I can't just go knocking on people's doors all the time. But right now, while I have the strength to do that, is the time to do it. And giving a little gift at the holidays is a good excuse to do that. So everybody's getting a little note from me. It has, I'll just read you one of the sample ones. Dear so-and-so, because I happen to know these people's names because they just moved in. I hope you're having a fun and restful holiday and that these relieve your cooking duties just a bit, the treats that I'm putting in the bag. Welcome again to the neighborhood and happy holidays. I've also put in here for other people, and I put in my number here too for them. Please feel free to call or pop over if you ever need help or if you just want to chat. And then I put my phone number and I put no text because I don't have a textable phone. And I'm not going to text with you and become your friend because there's no way to become somebody's friend via text. And then I also say jars are for the fridge or freezer. They're not pantry stable because I have some things that are in jars. And the fig spread probably is pantry stable, but because it's not heat sealed, I don't want to tell them that it is and then, risk them getting sick. These are the collard greens. And then, and more collard greens for them. That's right, because there are 2 of them. And then a little fig spread. And everybody gets a different mixture of what they're getting. Everybody gets a little bit different thing. And you don't have to do it like that. But because I know that this is a couple, they're an older couple, so they're probably used to eating more homemade stuff. And they probably would be happy to get some collard greens and not have to make them themselves. I'm going to give them that. Now, for another neighbor, I have who I think might have similar tastes, but who like these people, I think these are a couple of young people who live at the corner. I don't know what they do. I know they're a little bit night owls, but I've never met them. I'm going to give them one little jar of collard greens in case they need some nutrition. And then I'm also going to give them like a big thing of the currant spread. because it's fun and holiday-ish, and it has flavors that kind of most people would like at the holidays. And then, let's see, same for that person. And then we have some that is, hang on, please hold. And then I have this one for somebody who also I haven't met, but I suspect it's a lady living alone. They have a fence around their yard and a dog, and the dog is fairly prevalent. But I've never seen this person outside. And so I'm guessing that they may be alone and might be kind of lonely. And so they get a raw yam mash with nuts and spices. You can eat that raw or cooked, and it's very tasty. And the apricot fig spread, and then just like a little baby champagne. And these champagnes are great because this will seal back up. This is not a cork; it's a screw-on. And so even though it's the same level of champagne, or you can do a prosecco, these run about $3 or $3.50 kind of thing. This brand, which is a pretty solid brand, you can get it in a sweeter variety or in a quite dry variety. And I think a 3-pack of this is like $10.50 most places that I see it. I got some to just kind of test out how my body was doing with alcohol, and I took just a little bit, but then I was like, oh, but I have all these extra bottles now. And so that's what I'm doing with most of my bottles. I'm just putting them in to different people's ones, not in everybody's, but if I know for sure that somebody would like it, or if I think, I know how it is to be alone at the holidays. I'm pretty much always alone at the holidays. And so if somebody is living alone and it doesn't get to get out, I know how boring that can be without alcohol because I can't really have alcohol. I did manage to have some in the past week one time, and it didn't bother my body like it has for a long, long time. And so that was really cool. That means that, maybe I can have like one treat a year, a glass of wine. But I just know, like, when you have alcohol, it sort of switches your brain to a different place. And if you're alone all the time, that can be helpful. So I just wanted to give that person that. And then I also have this for people that I just don't know anything about. Everybody gets a little bag of some sort. I got these at the dollar store. I actually like this one the best because it's compostable. You can just throw it right in your compost. You definitely can't do that with this one. But I was struggling to just find enough bags. So it's okay. But this says, to my neighbor in the cute beige house. I don't know this person, but I know where he lives, and I know he's kind of a middle age, maybe a little bit older than me, gentleman. And this is what people get when I don't know anything about them at all. They get this crumble topping. It looks like this one goes to a family, so they got more. But what this is something that was taking up space in my freezer. And so this will go on sweet potatoes. It will go on ice cream, or it would be like throw some frozen fruit in a casserole pan and throw this on top of it, and instantly you have a dessert. You have your crumble dessert. And the way that I made this was 2 cooking fails. One that I held on to because the ingredients were so expensive and the taste was good. It just wasn't what I needed. I tried to make some sorghum cookies last year, and it was sort of a disaster, and I didn't like them. But I was like, this is solid, and it's crumble. It's sweet and flour and expensive oil and various things. So I was like, this will work for something, but I'm not probably going to eat it. So I kept it, but because I made just a crap load of cookies, it's taken up a lot of space in my freezer. And then secondly, the second fail was a granola bar recipe. I was trying to make granola bars, and they tasted good, but like they never held up. And I did a few different recipes. I looked it up thoroughly before I did it, and it just did not happen. Like all of it barely holds up frozen state. And I was just like, this is just not practical. So I eat granola a little bit, but not a lot. Like I would mostly eat it in granola bar form. So I put these together, and I just kind of smushed them up, just with my hands. And now you've got 2 real, like these are very high powered. These are gluten free. There's no refined sugar in them. They're diabetic friendly. They're all organic. They weren't cheap to make. So these are good, but they're kind of easy because anybody can use them and like them, and they can put them in their pantry forever, or they can freeze them, or just throw them onto some ice cream and like be done with it. So very easy. And the way that I packaged this up in a plastic container. Obviously, if you're going to give them more, put it in a tin or something. You can get those at the dollar store, or probably at the craft store after Christmas for less money. But if you're going to spend more than $1 on it, don't bother. But this says crumble topping, diabetic friendly, no gluten, a few nuts, because there were a few nuts kind of here and there in the ingredients. So that way people know what they're getting into. I live in a pretty rural environment where probably people don't want to hear all the ingredient obsessy, information for the most part, except for the people who need to know it, right? And do need that information. So I didn't mostly put that on there, but I did on many of them write in for ice cream, yams, or fruit bake, just so that people would get an idea of like what to use it for. So that gives you a few ideas. And the way that I have these organized is over here. This is the section that I'll take. These are just geographically organized, right? So I'll need to come back and forth to the house to get a few things. And this reminds me kind of who they are. This is the lady with the fence. These are the people with kids. This is the Tudor house. There's only one on our street, so there you go. This is for the single older man. And then, and then you have cards that have people's names on them when I know them. And so this is a group, and then there's another group over there. That's the group that is most generic, and that's the group that's entirely shelf stable, that if I don't get it done today, it's okay. So the way that I've done the gifts, you'll notice like a lot of this stuff is perishable. It needs to go back in the fridge or the freezer. So you want to assemble it same day. I tried to kind of start assembling it the other day, and then I couldn't get it all done. And I was like, oh no, I know what I'm doing now, but I need to throw this stuff back in the freezer. So, but it's okay. You may have to take stuff out and think through like, who would this go to? And you're not necessarily going to have enough of one thing to go to everybody, nor would everybody want the same thing necessarily. So if you have a whole bunch of one thing, do that. But if you don't have a whole bunch of one thing, just, be a little thoughtful about who this could help. And this really has freed up quite a bit of space in my freezers, and I appreciate that. And I don't want to refill it back up, but I'm glad it's there. And I will make sure and get these out today. And it's kind of good to have a little incentive to have to get it out the same day, because after you do all this organizing, you're kind of tired and you're kind of over it, and you sort of just you get a little like, well, it'd be kind of a lot of energy going and talking to all those people and all the just BS. And so it's kind of good to have a little incentive to have to get them over there before it gets too busy. And it's the 21st. It's our solstice, and so it's going to be the darkest day of the year. And so you just want to like get it done. And if you go too late, then you got to redo the cards and make them Happy New Year cards. But I will say, this is an example of the cards. I don't use anything that says a holiday. It says something about a holiday. But what I do, I'll show you the cards that I'm using. Here we go. So out of respect for, especially people you don't know, but even people you do know, even people who are celebrating a certain holiday, you want to be careful in wishing them specifically that holiday, unless you really know that even the happy word is not going to bother them, because a lot of people relive a lot of trauma at holidays and in different punctuation points in the year, right? Or it's their first year after someone that they love dies or something. So, for example, this is one of them. This has this one that I have has the least amount of like Christmassy colors to it, but it has the red, and it's kind of refined, and it kind of works for a lot of people. These over here, I'll show you. This is the 4. that are in the set. And you can see like this one in particular is awesome for like it would be a perfect Kwanzaa card. Like it has a very indigenous kind of feel to it. This one here is kind of Victorian-ish. This one's very kind of feminine ish and real generic. And then, oh yeah, and then I already showed you the other one. So I'm actually finding that these are like perfect because some have, you know, distinctively masculine feels to them. Some have distinctively feminine feels to them. Some have very broad or like signal, you know, celebrate whatever holiday you want and I can still be your friend, you know, like whatever it is. So I'm actually really, really loving these. I bought all of them that they had at the store. They only had 3. But it ended up this exact box, however many were in this box is exactly how many I'm using. You can use smaller ones, you know, do whatever. But these were $7 at my half price books. You know, you can use smaller ones, but keep in mind, like put your phone number on there for heaven's sake and tell them like, you know, and put your address and like, this is where I live. This is my phone number. Like if I can be help to you or if you ever need a chat, please use that because if you're a lonely person, then you know that that's important. And if you're not a lonely person, you need to know that's important. A lot of people don't have an emergency contact, don't have anyone in the event that they really need someone. And, you know, get off your ass, be that person, you know, just do it. These are your neighbors and you may need their help at some point too. So if you want to be like selfish about it, like, do this so that they will, you know, be your friend and help you too. So anyway, that's what I've got here. This is my house here. And then I have little notes of like what I'm going to give the people. This is just what I found to be useful for me. Your brain may work differently. And then you probably can't see, but I have like some silver check marks on here once I like get it together. So anyway, I've got 30 minutes before my next meeting. And so I'm going to go deliver some of these. So I hope this is helpful. I hope that gave you kind of some guiding principles and happy holidays.